Soon, President Moon Jae-in says his government will continue to fully support the peace process on the Korean peninsula. And oil prices surge after an attack on Saudi oil facilities disrupted the global supply of crude. South Korea, a major oil importer, is keeping a close eye on the situation. NEWSCENTER begins now. Good evening and welcome to Arirang NEWSCENTER, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Arirang. Our top story this evening, North Korea says working-level talks with the United States could resume within the next few weeks. But Pyongyang stressed that nuclear negotiations can only begin when the regime's security is fully guaranteed. Our Kan Young-woo starts us off.
North Korea's foreign ministry says it expects working-level talks between Pyongyang and Washington to take place within the next few weeks. However, a Monday statement issued by the ministry's official in charge of U.S. affairs stressed that North Korea's position is clear and immovable. The official said the North denuclearization can only start after threats to Pyongyang's security and obstacles to its development have been completely removed. Reiterating that North Korea-U.S. dialogue poses two options, danger and opportunity, the statement said it's up to Washington to determine the outcome and the future of the talks. It added that it's fortunate that Washington has repeatedly affirmed its position to resolve matters through talks and negotiations. Meanwhile, South Korea has confirmed the reported delivery of a personal letter from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to U.S. President Donald Trump.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs cannot verify the report independently, but we were briefed in detail about the letter and its delivery some time ago from the U.S.
At a parliamentary session, Seoul's Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa added that the ministry is not in a position to discuss the content of the letter or when it was handed over. Earlier on Monday, 중앙일보, a local South Korean newspaper, reported that Kim sent a letter to Trump calling for a third summit and inviting the U.S. leader to Pyongyang. Citing anonymous diplomatic sources, however, the report said it's not clear whether Kim proposed the idea of holding an official summit in Pyongyang or if he had simply invited Trump for a personal visit. Kan Young-woo, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, President Moon Jae-in says he will do all that is necessary to ensure lasting peace on the Korean peninsula. He also promised a steady implementation of his economic policies to promote sustainable growth in the local economy. Our Park Hee-jun has more.
President Moon Jae-in has reaffirmed his unwavering commitment to establish peace on the Korean peninsula, coming at a time when the resumption of denuclearization talks with North Korea appears to be imminent.
북미 실무대화가 재개될 것이며 남북미 정상 간의 변함없는 신뢰와 평화에 대한 의지는 한반도 평화 프로세스를 진전시키는 힘이 될 것입니다. 우리 정부는 그 역할이 무엇이든 할 수 있는 모든 것을 다해 한반도 평화 정착과 평화 경제로 공동 번영의 미래를 당당하게 열어갈 것입니다.
The remarks came during a meeting with his top aides on Monday. President Moon is set to travel to New York next week to attend the UN General Assembly. He says he will work to gather support and participation from the international community for such peace efforts, also through his bilateral summit with U.S. President Donald Trump on the sidelines of that meeting. President Moon hopes to encourage dialogue between North Korea and the U.S. He will also discuss ways to further advance Seoul-Washington ties. Also addressing issues regarding the local economy, President Moon says the Korean economy is headed in the right direction. Citing recent employment figures, he pointed out that the country has added 450,000 new jobs compared to a year ago, and the unemployment rate is at its lowest level yet.
세계 경제의 불확실성, 확대와 제조업 구조 조정 등 어려운 여건과 환경 속에서 정부의 적극적 일자리 정책과 재정 정책이 만들어낸 소중한 성과라고 판단합니다.
Significant progress is also being made in cushioning the Korean economy against the blow of Japan's economic retaliations, according to Moon. He said the country has made significant strides in localizing the production of high-tech components and materials while boosting collaboration between small firms and big businesses. He promised efforts to minimize the impact of Japan's export restrictions on domestic companies and turn the crisis into an economic opportunity. President Moon attributed all the positive developments in the economy and the nuclear talks with North Korea to the administration's consistent policies. He says the government will continue to enforce them steadily to produce more concrete and promising results. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
South Korean food aid to North Korea is likely to be delayed, missing its original schedule of delivering shipments by the end of this month. Seoul's Unification Ministry said today that its plan to ship 50,000 tons of rice to the north via the World Food Programme has run into obstacles due to communication issues between Pyongyang and the WFP. North Korea has reportedly turned down the aid offer in protest of the recent joint military drills between South Korea and the U.S. The ministry is still waiting for an official response from Pyongyang regarding the aid plan. South Korea is considering boosting its defense capabilities by spending $34 million next year to develop unmanned surface vehicles for its Navy and mobile surveillance equipment. South Korean military sources confirmed that local defense and aerospace company LIG Next One would be undertaking the development of the unmanned vessel called the Haegon. Seoul's Navy has been running a pilot project of the USV since 2017, following an MOU with the Defense Acquisition Program Administration. Further development for military use is to be finalized after the National Assembly approves next year's budget. A renowned Swedish institute focused on nuclear disarmament says North Korea may have 10 more nuclear warheads than its last report a few months ago, bringing the total to an estimated 30 to 40. To move forward on denuclearization, the institute's director has advised working-level officials from relevant parties to come up with detailed preparations. Our EG1 reports.
North Korea is believed to have 30 to 40 nuclear warheads, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, or SIPRI. The director of the think tank's nuclear disarmament program, Shannon Kyle, said so in a press conference held in Seoul Monday, stressing, however, that there are many uncertainties.
Yes, so for the next yearbook coming up, we'll say North Korea has between 30 and 40 nuclear warheads. This is a rough estimate, I would emphasize, and it's based upon what we know about North Korea's fissile material production capabilities relevant for nuclear weapons.
This is about 10 warheads more than the institute estimated in June. The director said this is a median estimate based on their open sources from satellites and experts around the world, while highlighting that there is not a source that clearly states whether it's correct or not. Asked whether Pyongyang is truly willing to denuclearize, the director of SIPRI, Dan Smith, said yes, but it depends on how both sides define it, as the North could ask for a nuclear-free peninsula. So he emphasized the importance of detailed preparation at the working level. Smith said the failure to prepare is what led to the collapse of the Hanoi summit, and he was hopeful that reports are correct that a meeting between the nuclear envoys will take place in the coming weeks. When asked what role South Korea might play in the talks, Smith said it needs to keep working to improve ties with the North for when progress can be made while encouraging a softer U.S. policy on North.
It needs to achieve a fine balance between simultaneously aligning itself with U.S. policy and encouraging U.S. policy into the most peace-positive form that it can manage. And it needs to maintain the balance between consistently stressing, both for other governments, such as the U.S., but also for Korean citizens to understand.
As for whether President Trump's re-election campaign could become a factor in speeding up the negotiations, Smith said it's not so straightforward. History shows it's difficult for U.S. presidents to focus on major foreign policy achievements just a few months before the election period. 이지원, 아리랑 뉴스.
A drone attack on critical Saudi oil facilities over the weekend could disrupt up to half of Saudi Arabia's oil production. Many Asian countries, including South Korea, is keeping a close watch on the situation, while the U.S. is going to tap reserves to keep the market supplied. Hong Yu has more.
Oil prices soared nearly 20% when markets reopened after Saturday's drone attacks on Saudi Arabia's main oil processing plants, which had supplied some 5% of the world's oil. But crude oil prices stabilized after the initial spike, after Saudi officials said a third of crude output could resume by Monday. As markets opened Monday in Asia, the Singapore exchange saw Brent crude trading at more than $71 per barrel on the oil futures markets, up 19% from Friday's close. On the New York Mercantile Exchange, West Texas Intermediate crude opened at $63, also rising more than 15% from the previous close. The surge came as Saudi Arabia's state-run oil company Saudi Aramco temporarily closed facilities accounting for more than half its production. Saudi Arabia's energy minister Abdulaziz bin Salman says the strikes will cut the kingdom's oil output by 5.7 million barrels a day. The most vulnerable countries, including South Korea and China, which import large quantities of oil from Saudi Arabia, showed mixed market reactions during Monday's trading session. South Korea's benchmark Kospi index closed up 0.64%, while China's Shanghai SE Composite Index fell 0.02%. In the U.S., President Donald Trump said he has authorized the release of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, its emergency fuel reserve, to stabilize global supplies. Right after the attacks on Saturday, the U.S. blamed Iran for the drone strikes, but Iran denied any involvement, calling the accusation blind and futile. Trump warned of military action in a tweet uploaded Sunday night, saying the U.S. is locked and loaded and is waiting for verification from Saudi Arabia. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
South Korea's trade ministry says the attacks in Saudi Arabia won't significantly impact local oil supplies, at least for now. The remarks came after an emergency meeting with industry experts and major Korean oil firms earlier today. The Saudi government has said it will procure supplies to meet international contracts, but because Saudi oil accounts for nearly a third of South Korea's crude imports, Seoul is looking to diversify its oil sources and will tap into its reserves inventory if there's a supply shortage. Meanwhile, Seoul's foreign ministry expressed concern over the drone strikes, deeming them a, quote, serious threat to global energy security. Korea says it will keep a close eye on further announcements from the Saudi government as well as from Aramco. Meanwhile, the recent attack has prompted the South Korean military to consider its own defense mechanisms if the country experiences similar threats, especially those from North Korea. Our Kim Ji-yeon explains.
The coordinated drone strikes on key Saudi Arabian oil facilities have raised questions on whether South Korea is prepared to defend itself from similar attacks. There were no fighter jets nor missiles, and instead, 10 drones were mobilized in the recent attack against a Middle Eastern country. If each drone carried some 3 to 4 kilograms of explosives, their combined damage on a target would be equivalent to a blast from 48 C4 bombs detonated together. A South Korean military source confirmed that the Capital Defense Command has already imported from Israel anti-drone systems. Called the Security Sky Radar, they're being used to defend key government and military sites in Seoul through the detection of radio signals sent by the flying objects. But the radar system does not cover public airspace, including nuclear power plants in South Korea, located outside the capital, which made them easy to target if the North were to coordinate drone attacks. And these assumptions point at a dismal and very possible reality that South Korea could face, as North Korean drones have flown into the country before. Many times they go undetected, especially since the unmanned aerial vehicle's wings are shorter than 3 meters. Moreover, advanced drones feature fixed wings instead of rotary ones, making it difficult to detect with the current radar systems. In August, a drone believed to be from the north was spotted near the Kori nuclear power plant in Busan. In 2014, crashed drones believed to be from the north were found on the island of Baekneungdo and Paju City. Another one was caught in 2017 near the military base of Seongju, trying to take photos of the THAAD U.S. anti-missile system. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
In other news, as Korea continues to suffer from sluggish economic growth, the central bank says the government needs to increase spending to help turn things around. Yoon Jung-min reports.
The Bank of Korea emphasized the importance of the government's role in helping the local economy. According to its report on Monday, if the government increases spending by around $850 million, the country's gross domestic product would be lifted by more than $1 billion over the course of 5 years. That's because the private sector often increases consumption once the government injects more funds for companies and households. The central bank's figures exclude government spending on unemployment allowances but take into account the effects of spending in other areas, such as the supplementary budget used for localizing materials, parts, or machinery. Another report by the Hyundai Research Institute said the government should come up with measures to boost the economy, as many OECD countries are showing signs of economic slowdown, leading to a possible global recession. In July, the International Monetary Fund lowered its global growth projection for this year to 3.2%. Growth rates for the second quarter in major economies, including the U.S., China, and Europe, were all lower than previous figures. The main reasons behind this are low investment and consumption and sluggish exports due to the trade spat between Washington and Beijing. The Research Institute says one way to combat the global downside risks is to expand stimulus measures through expansionary fiscal policy, deregulation, or more investment in social overhead capital. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Korean imports of Japanese beer have continued to plummet amid the nationwide boycott on Japanese products in protest of Tokyo's export curbs. According to data from the Korea Customs Service, $223,000 worth of Japanese beer was imported in August, pushing Japan out of the top 10 beer exporting countries to Korea. Japan had enjoyed the largest share of Korea's imported beer market from January 2009 to June of this year. However, in the aftermath of Seoul's trade spat with Tokyo, Japanese brew fell to third place in the ranking of beer exporters to Korea for the month of July, further plummeting to 13th place last month. The Japanese newspaper Mainichi Shimbun has reported that most Japanese people support Tokyo's decision to take South Korea off its whitelist of trusted trading partners. But it also said that most of them want to see dialogue to resolve the trade dispute. In a nationwide poll last week, 64% of the people surveyed said they support South Korea's removal from Japan's trade whitelist. 57%, with some overlap, said Tokyo needs to engage South Korea diplomatically over the issue. Japan took Korea off its trade whitelist late last month. The total value of South Korea's car exports rose for a fifth straight month in August, the first such uptrend in 2 years. The increase also comes despite weak overseas demand. According to the Trade Ministry, the value of South Korea's car exports last month was nearly $3 billion, which is an increase of 4.6% from a year ago. The number of units shipped, however, was down slightly. Apparently, the value of the exports was boosted by more expensive models such as SUVs and electric vehicles becoming more popular in the United States and Europe. Some homeowners in Korea are now able to roll over their existing mortgages to a fixed-rate loan with an interest rate of less than 2% to help reduce their burden. Our Ji-young has the details.
To lessen the risk and burden for people on high-interest variable-rate mortgages, a government program is offering refinancing of existing home loans at fixed rates of less than 2%. For comparison, rates normally are around 3 to 4%. Applications are now being accepted at banks and the Korea Housing Finance Corporation and will be open until the 29th. They can be submitted 24 hours a day through the website of the Korea Housing Finance Corporation, and online applications get an interest rate discount of 0.1%. Qualified borrowers can get a rate of 1.85 to 2.2%. The program even applies to mortgages from the secondary market and where there are multiple loans on one house. But it only works for variable mortgages taken out before July 23rd this year. Also, to qualify, you have to have a household income of less than about $72,000 and have only one house. Higher incomes are allowed for younger couples and those with children. Those who've been married for less than 7 years and have 2 or more children, household income has to be less than about $85,000. Also, refinancing is only possible for homes worth less than about $760,000, and the loan will be limited to roughly $420,000. There are even lower rates for certain people, including newlywed couples, single-parent families, and multicultural families, starting at about 1.2%. The program will get funding worth about $17 billion. If demand exceeds supply, priority will be given those with lower-priced homes. Ji-young, Arirang News.
Seoul has the 6th most expensive grocery prices in the world, higher than those of New York and Tokyo. This is according to global database Numbeo, which analyzes the grocery prices of 377 cities, comparing prices of staple items like a carton of milk and a loaf of bread. Seoul stands at 101 points, 9 notches up from last year, and the figure is roughly 5% higher than New York. New York and Tokyo were placed 7th and 15th, respectively. The 5 cities with the most expensive groceries were all in Switzerland, with Zurich topping the list. Seoul ranks 26th in terms of overall cost of living, putting it in the top 10% of the world's most expensive cities to live in. Starting next month, South Korea will allow new fathers to take extra time off work for childcare. The government will also provide an additional 30 days of unemployment benefits to those without a job. Our Kim Jae-hee has the details.
Currently, new dads in South Korea can take up to 5 days of paternity leave, which includes 3 days of paid leave. However, starting next month, the maximum period of paternity leave in South Korea will be raised from 5 days to 10 days, with full pay for the entire duration. The application deadline will also be extended to 90 days after the birth of the child from the current 30 days. Also, instead of going on a leave for a single, uninterrupted stretch, fathers will now be able to divide them into 2 separate time periods. The revised law also includes measures to further reduce the working hours of new mothers. Although the current law allows shorter working hours for a maximum of 1 year, mothers weren't afforded any additional time off if they had already taken a year off for maternity leave. The new measures will now allow mothers of children under the age of 8 to request shorter working hours for a period of 1 year, even after returning from maternity leave.
The ministry has allowed the reduction of working hours for up to 2 years for the mothers and has extended the paid leave period for the fathers.
In a separate move, the duration of unemployment benefits payment will also be extended by 30 days starting October 1st. Unemployment benefits will now be offered for a maximum of 270 days, dependent on the recipient's age and his or her enrollment in employment insurance. Payments will also be raised from the current 50% to 60% of the country's average wage, but the hard cap will remain unchanged at 66,000 Korean won per day, which is around $55. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
South Korea has begun issuing a new type of driver's license in the English language, valid in 33 countries, including the United Kingdom, Australia, Singapore, as well as parts of Canada. The National Police Agency said Monday that local drivers can apply for the English driver's license for about $9 at a local police station or at a driver's license test center. However, the terms of use for the license differ for each country, so travelers are advised to keep this in mind before traveling abroad. Artificial intelligence is expected to spur not only technological progress, but also speed up economic and military growth. And with many countries around the world trying to harness this potential, our Oh Soo-young tells us the key to doing it is getting as much data as possible.
Quantity counts as much as quality when it comes to the global race for artificial intelligence. Countries around the world, including South Korea, the United States and China, have been racing in an unspoken competition to become the world leader in AI technology. As deep learning and computing power continue to make huge leaps, AI is expected to further boost competitiveness and productivity in almost every sector of society, from the economy to healthcare, security, law, transportation, and even technology itself. But to develop optimized solutions, what's crucial is data.
One of the things that's the lifeblood that really powers AI is the data that is required. Now, this data is inside their organization, it's outside of their organization, but until they have control over that data, they can bring it together in a trusted, governed way and provide that to their AI models. This is what's fundamental for any company to move along this journey to AI.
Countries with relatively loose regulations, such as the United States, allow businesses wider access to personal information and data. However, in Korea, where there are stricter standards, firms are limited from collecting information that could lead to innovation and vastly improve their services.
There are three divisive factors: the algorithm itself, computing power to process data quickly, and then there's data. These three elements must create synergy for an AI business or solution to flourish. But the regulatory landscape in Korea currently gives global firms an unfair advantage, as they are not subject to the same laws that require user consent on data collection.
That has been a catch-22 situation for Korea, nurturing database industries while still protecting individuals' rights to privacy.
The individuals feel that their privacy can be compromised by the government and companies. So for these type of people who believe that their privacy is compromised, we need to understand them, and we need to try to ensure that their personal rights or their value, individuals' value, can be protected. We should give right for them to be ignored, to be forgotten.
Many experts have called for regulatory reform as well as innovation in encryption technology in order to overcome the data dilemma and increase Korea's AI capabilities. At the moment, Korea is considered roughly 2 years behind the United States in AI technology. 오수영, Arirang News.
It is that time now where we take a look at Arirang's digital media content, and today we have another episode of When in Korea or Wink with Justin.
We good? 할게요. All right, so you guys obviously know about kimchi, right?
Of course.
Yeah, do you guys enjoy kimchi every now and then?
I'm from Argentina.
Argentina.
I never tried kimchi until I came here, but it's kind of like an acquired taste, right?
Okay. You are from America.
Yep, America.
Have you tried kimchi?
I've had kimchi. I don't really care for it. I don't really like it too much.
Okay.
It was pretty old kimchi, so it was this smelled like, a dead fish or something like that.
Maybe. How long have you been in Korea, if you don't mind me asking?
Since 2003.
Do you enjoy kimchi?
Yes. When I first came to Korea, it was very difficult for me to eat kimchi because it was very spicy. So I used to eat mulgimchi.
물김치. So the non-spicy.
Yeah, the water kimchi.
Okay. 외국인들한테 김치 처음 드실 때 또 이렇게 껄껄할 수 있거나 냄새가 안 맡는 사람들이 있다고 해서 그 약간 꿀팁 같은 거 있을까요? 뭐 이렇게 먹으면 괜찮다 김치는.
구워 먹어라. 냄새
네.
안 심하고
네.
맛이 좋아져가지고.
맛이 좋아져. 그쵸?
네.
맞아.
mulgimchi.
The non-spicy.
Yeah, the water kimchi.
Okay.
구워 먹어라. 냄새 안 심하고.
In the beginning, I was like, oh no, okay, I really don't like it.
But kimchi is actually just a side dish, not a main dish. So, during the interviews, we did ask for recommendations on what food items go best or what their personal preferences were to eat alongside kimchi. So let's check that footage out too. 김치랑 제일 맛있겠다라는 음식이 있을까요? 쌀밥. 밥 그냥 just plain rice.
김치가 맛이 좀 강한 편이니까 저희 주식인 쌀밥은 맛이 그렇게 강한 편이 아니잖아요.
네.
그래서 둘이 궁합이 잘 맞는 것 같아요.
라면이요.
라면? 왜 라면이나?
시너지가 좋아가지고.
삼겹살? 삼겹살.
그리고 소주랑 같이.
소주랑 김치가 잘 어울려요?
네, 그럼요.
왜 소주랑 잘 어울릴까요?
원래 단짠 설렁탕.
설렁탕 안 나왔다. That's great.
그냥 설렁탕 한 숟가락에 김치 올려서 먹으면 진짜 매운맛 들어가면 진짜 맛있어갖고.
두부나 네
보쌈?
네.
고구마랑 김치랑 같이
고구마?
먹으면
저는 가끔 파스타 먹을 때도 먹어요. 느끼하면은 김치가 잡아줘서.
Okay, so as you can see, we have a huge assortment of different foods here. These are all the foods that were recommended that go well with kimchi during their interviews. Bon appetit. This is good. The kimchi was delicious with everything. 역시 김치는 슈퍼 반찬.
The last bit of summer heat swept the nation during the day, but the mercury is dropping quickly into the evening. For more details, let's turn to our Michelle Park, who is at the Weather Centre for us. Michelle.
Now, the strong sun grilled the nation today with daytime highs climbing above 30 degrees Celsius, now which is about 4 degrees higher than our seasonal norms. But into the evening, the temperature is plunging very quickly and is expected to drop more throughout our evening. And the high pressure front is expected to keep the sky clear, especially for the southern parts of the peninsula tomorrow. Now, whereas in Jeju and the capital, we are expecting to see occasional cloud covers during the day. But in general, it's going to be a pleasant Tuesday. Now, like I said, keep in mind of the chilly mornings and nights, as Seoul will wake up to 18 degrees Celsius in the morning, and Daegu at 17, Busan to 20, while Jeju is warmer, heading up to 22 degrees. Now, with about 10 degrees rise into our day, Seoul's mercury will peak up to 28 degrees, and similar temperatures will be seen across the whole country. And the nation will be under a pleasant autumn sky for now. And by later this week, the leftover heat will dissipate, lowering the highs into the mid-20s. Now I'll leave you with weather conditions around the world.
Well, that will wrap it up for this edition of Arirang News. Thank you, as always, for watching. I will be back with our very own Handa tomorrow, so do come back then. Stay tuned, meanwhile, for News in Depth coming up next.
Guess what I'm making today?